This activity is called Fractions with Cards, and this is an activity you can use to review fractions if you have a standard deck of 52 playing cards. If you don't have a standard deck of 52 playing cards, there's modifications you can make. So you could make your own cards by just using paper and writing the numbers on them. You could use dice and you could roll 1 or 2 dice depending on what you want to use for numbers. If you want to use the numbers 1 through 6 or the numbers 1 through 12, that would be with 2 dice. So how this activity works, you need a piece of paper, or you could use a whiteboard to write on. You need something to write with. You need a subtraction sign, an addition sign, a division sign, and a multiplication sign if you want to practice all 4 operations with fractions. Otherwise, again, you can modify this if you just want to practice addition and subtraction, or just multiplication and division, or something other than that. So with the cards, just to make it simple, I've taken out all of the face cards and the joker cards, so I'm only using the numbers 2 through 10. Again, if you want to modify the game, you could use jokers and make those wild cards, and when playing those, you could make them any number you want, whether the numbers 2 through 10, or if you want to go beyond that and use larger numbers. You could also modify with the face cards, and you can choose different values for the face cards. So you could use Jack is now 11, Queen is 12, King is 13, and so on. So if you want to modify or add to it or make it slightly more challenging, you could also use the face cards or use the joker cards for wilds. But I'm only going to demonstrate using the numbers 2 through 10. So how the game works, you want to play this with a partner. If you don't have a partner, you can play it on your own. It just won't be as exciting and as challenging and fun. So what you want to do is you want to create fractions with the cards. So I'm going to set up my cards, and I'm just going to pick at random to make it a little more exciting. I want to use a combination of fractions, improper fractions, and mixed numbers. Again, depending on what you want to review and how difficult you want the game to be, you could just stick with just basic fractions, or you could use improper fractions or mixed numbers, but I'm going to use all of them. So I'm going to create some fractions with these cards. So I'm just going to flip at random or pick at random and create these fractions. So I have the fraction, and I'll say the top card is the numerator and the bottom card is the denominator. So I have the fraction 10 over 8, the improper fraction. I'm going to use one of my operation cards, so we're going to use multiplication with this problem. And then I'm going to pick let's do 3 more cards. I'm going to make a mixed number. So I have the number 4 and 3. Let's change that slightly. I don't want to put a mixed number and an improper together, so let's make a little different there. Let's say 4 and 3/5. Okay, so if you're playing with partners or you're playing in a group, this is something that you would set up for your partners or your partner to then solve. So you don't set these up for yourself unless you're playing by yourself. So now that I've arranged my fraction, I'm going to show this to my opponent or my partner, and they are then going to solve this fraction on a sheet of paper or on a whiteboard to practice solving fractions. At the same time that they are solving it, you also should be solving it, because you are ultimately deciding if they are right or wrong. So you need to know what the correct answer is. So at the same time that your partners are solving this, you also need to solve it to double check and verify that they are correct. So let me just show you really quick what that looks like. If this is my fraction, I'm going to write it on my sheet of paper. So I have 10/8 times 4 and 3/5. So I'm going to show all the steps it takes to solve this. So first off, I'm going to leave the first fraction as 10/8. I'm going to keep it as multiplication. I'm going to write this fraction as a improper fraction instead of a mixed number. So that means I'm taking 5, I'm multiplying it by 4, which is 20, and then I'm adding 3 to it. So I have 23 in the numerator. You keep the denominator of 5. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. So I'm going to multiply 10 times 23, and I get 230. I'm going to multiply 8 times 5, and I get 40. I could do this, and then I would need to then simplify at the end, so I could write 230 over 40 and then simplify beyond there. So I could divide both of these by 10. and I would end up with 23 over 4. This is in simplest form. You could leave it as an improper fraction, or if you want to make it a mixed number, 23 divided by 4 is 5 with a remainder of 3 left over, so 5 3/4. So I could leave my answer as an improper fraction or a mixed number. Again, depending on how you want to play this activity with your partners or by yourself, you can choose. Everyone needs to leave it as an improper or leave it as a mixed number, or have the option to leave it as either or. So this is how you play the card game activity. It's pretty fun, I would say, if you can make challenging fractions for your partners or your friends to try to solve. And obviously, to make it more difficult, you can even add more fractions and more challenging numbers with those. So instead of only using the numbers 2 through 10, you could use larger numbers. You could even extend this to use 3 fractions or 4 fractions or 5 fractions. It doesn't need to just be 2. So again, you could draw more of these multiplication signs and you could set up more fractions to multiply, or you could add in, I'm going to multiply these and then I'm going to add a subtraction to the end of the problem and add another fraction after that. So there are several ways you can modify this game to make it more challenging and to make it better for the review process.